This happened about a year ago on a camping trip to Kentucky in the winter. My girlfriend at the time and 3 of my buddies spent a long weekend doing some hiking and camping. We drove in on a Friday night around midnight and set up camp. There was almost no one else at this campsite besides a young couple a bit down the road from us, and an older man down the road the other way. We unloaded the cars in the dark and got the headlamps out and started setting up the tents. All of a sudden, my girlfriend noticed that we had an extra person amongst us. It was a young woman from the couple at the campsite down the road. She looked really messed up. Her eyes were glazed and her skin looked like she had been picking at it constantly. She introduced herself and spoke in a sort of monotonous way. Overall, she seemed nice, but it was her boyfriend or husband who really creeped us out. We noticed after talking with her for a bit that he was standing near our campsite at the edge of the woods, just staring at us. Eventually, he went back to their campsite, but then got his car and pulled right up to us with his high beams on. As you can imagine, getting blasted by high beams at midnight in the middle of the woods really impairs your ability to see. His girlfriend said that she had to go, and she got into the car with him. At this point, we were all weirded out but not freaked out. It was later in the night when things got scary. I was in the tent with my girlfriend when I started to hear a domestic argument from the couple down the road. It soon escalated to full screaming. Then I heard the sound of glass break. At this point, we were all sitting up and deciding if we should do something. I hear someone get into the car. Then the car peels out of the campsite and races down the dirt road past our campsite, kicking up dirt and gravel against the side of our tent. The guy had apparently left his girlfriend in the campsite because we could hear her sobbing. My girlfriend and I start getting dressed so we can check out the situation, but the car comes peeling back up the road and parks back at the campsite. Loud panic shouting ensues, and we hear 2 clear pops that sound exactly like gunshots. I remember the feeling of blood draining from my face. My girlfriend and I are basically frozen in our tent listening. Finally, to our great relief, we hear them both start arguing again. The argument settles down by about 4 in the morning and we fall asleep. When we woke up, they were gone. I asked my buddies if they heard what happened, and they said it kept them up as well. We made breakfast and started packing up when the older man from the trailer walked over and started chatting with us. He seemed surprised that my girlfriend was with me, and said something along the lines of, "You shouldn't have brought her, it's not safe for women here." Needless to say, we were officially creeped out and we found a new area of the state park to stay. We found a lovely lakeside campsite the next night and we enjoyed the rest of the trip, but we were certainly jarred by the encounters. A couple years ago, I was stressed out from college and big city life and decided to spend a long weekend in the woods, doing what my city friends consider utter lunacy and us outdoorsy people consider nirvana. Deep woods and free camping in the winter, alone. While this sounds like the beginning of a missing persons report, if you are an experienced outdoorsman, it's actually pretty safe. I also take a secret pleasure in being the white trash warrior-ess my dad always hoped I'd be. I always hated the feeling of claustrophobia that came with being female in the city, avoiding eye contact, not walking alone at night. But when you're a girl out alone in the woods, you're in charge. You're safe within the warm embrace of your own solitary freedom. Or so I thought. I spent a few hours on the roads, the surroundings getting wilder and wilder as I drove. I parked in a loud roadside ditch and, with a compass and a map, I hiked until I was in a mile's reach or so of some good ice fishing. I was at least 4 miles from the road. I made an extremely discreet camp in a clearing, with just one little hole in the snow for my tiny tent and my tiny campfire. After a couple of beautiful days of just hiking and relaxing around camp, I made the trek to the fishing hole. Everything was in utter winter stillness. After a mile or so of crunching along in the snow, I silently celebrated my compass skills when I came out at the exact place I had intended to. I punched a hole in the thin crust of ice, and I set to getting my fish on. My first catch actually came quick. After a few weeks under a frozen surface, the fish get hungry. I was feeling oddly fatigued and jumpy, so I decided to just clean the fish here and now, and take it straight back to the camp to cook. I quickly realized my fish preparation skills were rusty at best. I cursed my lack of preparation as I cut myself for the second time. But something in my peripheral senses was irritating me, but I was very set on my task, focusing on the motions in the slippery mess. The thing in my periphery was growing a lot more irritating. Like the buzzing of a fly or the yammering of a sibling. I carved and hacked and sliced my hand open freshly as the fish slipped out of my hands and into the snow. Frustrated, I started yelling, "Fuck off with that whistling, will you?" Silence resumed. And then my heart stopped. Living in a college neighborhood, I had grown so accustomed to white noise that I had failed to recognize how grossly inappropriate this sound was in context. The silence weighed down on me as I broke into a sweat. The only reason a human would be this deep in the woods would be to hunt, and no hunter would give himself away like that. And if he was whistling for any other reason, shouldn't he have reacted to my outburst? Yelled something vulgar back? Apologized? No, nothing. Just the total stillness of the woods, silence as pure as it was before I spoke. Unsure if I had misheard the twitterings of a bird or something, I just decided the fish was a lost cause and slung my gear over my shoulder and headed for camp. I trudged off in the woods, and about a quarter mile from camp, I saw a large mass protruding from the snow. Apprehensive, but drawn like the moth to the flame, I trudged up to what materialized in the closing distance as a moose kill. A really, really good moose kill. A clean shot through the upturned eye, staring at me. Staring at me and saying something. Saying something that was imposing a sense of dread on me, but a dread I couldn't translate. I ran. I ran hard and I ran fast. In the snow in the woods, everything looked the same. I knew I was moving south, and I knew I'd passed camp on the east. I looked to my left and saw my car 50 yards or so down, and I drove the lonely 15 miles to the first motel I saw signs for. I had none of my belongings and no earthly idea why I had just abandoned ship like that. It was only as I was sitting up watching infomercials that night that it all started to fall together. Why would the Park Service issue free camp passes for the same stretch of woods that they allowed hunting? The moose defied everything of my rudimentary understanding of hunting. Even with the snow to cool it, decomp starts quickly on an animal that size. You'd have time for a quick few pictures, but you want to have it dressed quickly. Why would you kill a moose 5 miles into the forest? How could you ever drag it back to the road? In the morning, in a sleep-deprived and paranoid state, I described everything I'd seen and thought I heard to a very confused park ranger. He seemed more vexed about illegal hunting than any of my crazy city girl ramblings. He said he wanted to come pick me up and have me take him to where I thought the kill site was. I said I was only going to do that if he brought a gun. He sighed with exasperation and told me when to meet him. So we rode out into the woods on an ATV, with me awkwardly riding on the back, as if on the back of the world's awkwardest motorcycle. We got to a large impression in the snow where the moose had been. Blood was everywhere. There was also the distinct track of the carcass being dragged. The drag marks made a smooth trail in the snow, as if the carcass were on a tarp. The ranger said he should take me back now, and he asked where my camp was. I pointed in the direction of the drag marks. It looked like he was finally sharing my unease. Back at the hotel, I washed my clothes in the sink and prepared to drive home in the morning. An unknown number called my phone. It was the park ranger. The moose had been dragged to my campsite. He described the scene as a huge mess. He wasn't sure if an animal had helped to make the mess, but one thing was clear. Somebody had cut into my tent with a knife. I asked about the rest of my belongings, and he said darkly, "You don't want them back. They're covered in moose mess." So, what happens now? Well, miss, we're just gonna keep an eye out for this guy. I haven't heard of or seen anything like this ever before, and I'm really sorry that this happened. And that was it. No closure. No explanation. In the years that have passed, I've tried every different application of reason. A hunter who needed help, but knew I was already gone. A deranged psychopath, looking to make his second kill. I still don't know why I didn't hear the gunshot. The whistling seems so vivid in my memory, but was it even real? One question has definitely been answered, though. I'll never go into the woods alone again. I was on a job where I had to drive site to site and do small upgrades to the shelving at every CVS pharmacy in California. I'm about a month into the contract, and I've got over a 100-mile drive through the redwoods to my next location. As I'm driving, I notice that I smell a slight funk on myself. If I can smell it, it will be 100 times worse to the client. I'll need to figure out how to get a shower and change clothes before arriving at the next location. I'm about 40 miles deep on this isolated stretch of highway through the redwoods when I see a sign for a camp at the next exit. I take the turn off to see if they have a shower. I pull into this really small camp that has about 15 spots, all tight together in a circle. It was an awful looking camp, but it was deserted and they had a shower, so that's perfect. I grab a towel and a change of clothes and head to the bath building. As I approach, I can hear water running. I get to the building and there's someone in one of the stalls taking a shower. This seems really weird. The camp is deserted. No cars, no tents. And it's the middle of winter, and we are miles and miles from civilization. Who in the world could be in there? It's got to be a pot farmer. Maybe a homeless dude. Are there meth labs in Redwoods? I'm not quite spooked by it yet, but my instincts are telling me that it's very weird. I decide to go ahead and use one of the showers a few stalls down from him. I'm comforted that the doors are thick metal with a big strong bolt lock. The shower runs on quarters, lol. Nice, California. I take off my clothes and slide some quarters into the slot, and the water immediately turns on. A second later I hear someone struggling and screaming fuck. Oh no, I must have stolen his hot water, I thought. I feel awful, but I can't shut it off. Nothing I can do now, so uneasily I step under the water, wondering what's going through the other guy's head. I don't have to wait long to find out. I'm about a minute into my shower. There's a huge smash against my metal shower door, followed by him screaming, "What the fuck?" with him knocking repeatedly. This dude is trying to kick down my door. I'm petrified. I get out of the shower and stand by the door dripping wet and naked with my fists up in case he gets in. I can't put into words how uncomfortable I felt about the concept of fighting naked. I kept thinking I should try to put my pants on real quick, but I couldn't bring myself to do it, because if the door gave while my pants were around my ankles, I would get absolutely destroyed. I also thought about the implications of fighting someone miles and miles from the next human being. I mean, what are the stakes? I've been in more than a handful of bar fights and even enjoyed boxing with my friends, but there was never any real danger. If somebody actually got hurt, everybody breaks it up. Is this guy going to stop fighting if he wins? Is this to the death in his mind? I was so scared that I'm near panicking, but I try to control my breathing and give myself the best possible chance at coming out of this. After what felt like an eternity of him trying to get in, even though it was probably only a minute or two, he stopped screaming and banging. I call out to him, "Hey man, I'm sorry, I'll give you more quarters." But there's no answer. I wait a few more minutes and finally relax a little. Phew, I thought, he's got his wits about him. I resume my shower, thinking about how weird this is and wondering if he'll be waiting for me. Then I think about my truck. I've got a few grand worth of tools in there. I literally can't afford to lose them, and I'm sure he's in it. Soaking wet, I jump out of the shower and throw on my pants, slam open my stall door and go running out towards my vehicle. As I turn the corner of the building towards the parking area at full sprint, I was just so relieved that he's nowhere around. He must have slinked back to wherever he hides in the wilderness. Dear homeless hippie meth lab crazy person, please chill.